Hello mates, welcome to the West 6 Mixology podcast. I'm Scotty Clark and our show today is about the velvety, boozy holiday classic that's been warming hearts and knocking socks off for centuries. We're diving into the glorious world of eggnog, that creamy rum and brandy concoction that somehow convinced us all that drinking alcoholic custard was the height of festive celebration. You know what's genuinely terrifying about eggnog? Not the raw eggs, though we'll get to that particular controversy. No, the truly unsettling thing is that George Washington's personal recipe called for rum, sherry, brandy, and rye whiskey all at once. The man who couldn't tell a lie made a holiday drink designed to make you forget your own name. His family described it as strong enough to knock your socks off, which is delightfully understated when you consider the spirit-to-dairy ratio was essentially a dairy-flavoured alcohol delivery system. And here's the thing, Washington's liver-punishing nog wasn't some aberration. It was just honest about what eggnog actually is. A medieval cold remedy that stumbled through colonial America, got absolutely hammered, and somehow became the drink we associate with cosy holiday gatherings. It's custard that got corrupted, a nutritious breakfast that went rogue. The story starts centuries before anyone called it eggnog, back when medieval Europeans were drinking something called posset. Picture this. Sick people in drafty castles, no antibiotics, miserable with head colds. Someone, probably desperate or possibly already delirious with fever, decided to curdle hot milk with wine or ale, sweeten it with sugar they could barely afford, add eggs for protein, and drink it as medicine. Sounds absolutely dreadful. But here's the strange thing. It apparently worked, or at least made being sick more tolerable. Warm milk, alcohol to numb the suffering, eggs for sustenance. Medieval comfort food in liquid form. Fast forward to the American colonies in the late 1700s. You've got British immigrants craving their possets, but there's a problem. Wine and ale aren't exactly flowing freely in the New World. You know what is flowing? Rum. Caribbean trade means cheap, molasses-based spirits flooding colonial ports. So Americans did what Americans do best. They improvised, made do, and somehow convinced themselves their version was better than the original. Out went the wine, in came the rum. The drink got cold instead of hot because, frankly, who wants to heat things in summer when you're making spirits? And at some point, someone started calling it eggnog. Now, about that name, we've got three competing theories, and frankly, they're all equally plausible and equally absurd. Theory 1. Nog comes from noggin, which was a small wooden cup for strong beer. So egg in a noggin becomes eggnog. Theory 2. It's a slurred contraction of egg and grog, grog being the watered-down rum they gave sailors to keep them from full mutiny. Say egg and grog enough times after drinking it, and you'll understand how that could happen. Theory 3. In East Anglia, nog meant strong ale, so eggnog just meant egg and strong ale. Pick whichever etymology makes you feel most sophisticated at holiday parties. What matters is that by the early 1800s, eggnog was thoroughly American. It represented something important to a young nation still figuring out its identity. The ability to take European tradition and make it completely their own. Plus, and this is crucial, it was expensive. Eggs, dairy, refined sugar, spirits, these weren't things just anyone could afford. Making eggnog for guests was showing off. It said, I have chickens, I have cows, I have sugar, and I have spirits to spare. Very fancy. Very aspirational. Then Prohibition came along and tried to ruin everything. Can't spike your nog if spirits are illegal. So the drink split into two paths. Sad, non-alcoholic commercial versions that tasted like liquid Christmas-scented candles, and underground bootleg-enhanced versions that probably contained substances best left unexamined. After Prohibition ended, commercial eggnog exploded in popularity. But here's where things got weird. Manufacturers made it sweeter, thicker, more stable, longer lasting. They added things eggs and cream and sugar could never do on their own. By the 1980s, most people thought eggnog came from a carton, tasted like melted ice cream, and had roughly the same alcohol content as a stern look. More after our break.
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners, Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
The craft cocktail revival changed that. Bartenders started asking dangerous questions like, what if we made this the old way? They discovered something revolutionary. Eggnog made from scratch, with real eggs and fresh dairy and actual spirits in meaningful quantities, was an entirely different drink. Silky instead of slimy, balanced instead of cloying. Something you'd actually want to drink instead of something you tolerate once a year out of tradition. So let's talk about making it properly. And I promise you, it's simpler than the internet's hysteria about raw eggs would have you believe. Start with the eggs. Fresh eggs, the kind where you actually check the date, not the ones that have been lurking in your fridge since autumn started. You need the yolks for their lecithin, which is a fancy word for the stuff that makes fat and water play nicely together. Because that's what eggnog is, a negotiated peace treaty between cream, milk, and spirits. Without eggs, you've got boozy milk that separates into sadness. With eggs, you've got emulsification, body, that custard-like richness that makes eggnog worth the caloric investment. The sugar matters more than you'd think. Superfine dissolves better, but really you're just looking for something that won't leave gritty crystals in the bottom of your glass. Sugar does more than sweeten. It helps stabilize everything, gives you mouthfeel, and in aged versions, it works with the alcohol to extract and preserve flavors. You want about an ounce per serving, which sounds like a lot, until you remember you're balancing dairy and spirits. Now the dairy. Whole milk and heavy cream, and don't even think about substituting low-fat anything. This isn't the time for dietary restraint. The milk provides drinkability. Without it, you're basically making alcoholic pudding. The cream provides luxury, richness, that coating sensation that makes each sip feel like wearing a cashmere sweater on the inside. The fat content carries flavors and mellows the alcohol burn. Fat is your friend here. For spirits, you've got options. Traditional rum makes sense because molasses and dairy have this magical affinity. Same reason rum works in Bananas Foster. The vanilla, caramel, and baking spice notes from aged rum fit perfectly with nutmeg and cream. Brandy brings dried fruit and oak-aged elegance, more refined than rum, less obviously sweet. Bourbon adds corn sweetness, vanilla from the barrel, that distinctly American character. Or you do what Washington did and throw in multiple spirits like you're trying to prove something, which, historically, you absolutely were. Here's the technique that matters. You must agitate this properly. Either shake it hard with ice for a single serving or whisk it thoroughly for a batch. The eggs need to emulsify, the fat needs to distribute, the spirits need to integrate. If you just stir it gently, you'll get layers. Watery liquid at the bottom, thick egg cap at the top, disappointment throughout. Shake it like you're angry at it. Whisk it like you're training for something. Vigorous agitation is non-negotiable. The nutmeg goes on top, freshly grated, right before serving. This is not optional, and it must be fresh. Pre-ground nutmeg tastes like dusty regret. Fresh nutmeg has volatile oils that smell like Christmas decided to become a spice. It's woody, sweet, slightly bitter, faintly medicinal in the best way. Those aromatic compounds hit your nose before the drink hits your lips, which is exactly what you want. It lifts the heavy dairy base, adds complexity, and signals, yes, this is eggnog, to everyone's brain. No ice in the glass, by the way. Eggnog is served cold, but undiluted. You've already got the balance right. Milk and cream provide all the dilution you need. Ice just waters down your carefully constructed emulsion. Now, about that raw egg controversy that makes food safety people very nervous. Here's the truth. Traditional eggnog uses raw eggs. Always has. The alcohol preserves everything. There have been actual studies where microbiologists tested aged eggnog stored for weeks and found the alcohol killed bacteria effectively. More after our break.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Does this mean zero risk? No, nothing in life is zero risk. But the risk is lower than people think, especially with fresh eggs and adequate spirit content. If you're immunocompromised or serving someone who is, use pasteurized eggs or cook your base into a custard first. But don't let fear rob you of doing this properly. Speaking of aging, this is where it gets interesting. Some people make eggnog, mix in all the spirits, and refrigerate it for weeks or even months before drinking. The aging mellows everything, integrates flavors, creates something smoother and rounder than fresh eggnog. Jeffrey Morgenthaler, a bartender who's basically eggnog's prophet, published a technique that sparked a whole movement of people aging mason jars of nog in their fridges, like tiny dairy-based science experiments. Others insist fresh is better. Brighter flavor, cleaner dairy taste, more immediate spirit presence. Both camps are right. Fresh eggnog tastes vibrant and lively. Aged eggnog tastes mellow and sophisticated. Make both. Compare them. Decide what you prefer. Fight about it with your relatives. There are variations, of course. Some recipes separate the eggs, whip the whites to peaks, fold them in at the end for a lighter, frothier texture. Others use whole eggs, beaten with sugar for a denser, richer result. Some people add a touch of vanilla extract. Others consider that heresy. You can make it with a single spirit or a committee of spirits. You can serve it cold or warm it gently for a posset-adjacent experience. You can spike commercial eggnog if you're short on time and long on pragmatism, though you'll want to add extra spirits and fresh nutmeg to rescue it from mediocrity. When you drink it, pour a small serving. This is rich enough that 4 to 6 ounces feels substantial. You're not throwing this back. You're sipping it, letting it coat your palate, tasting how the nutmeg plays with the cream, how the spirit warmth builds, how the sweetness doesn't cloy because the alcohol and spice provide counterpoint. It should taste like drinkable custard with a PhD in making you feel cozy. If it tastes like sweet dairy soup or burning regret, something went wrong. The experience is thoroughly tied to cold weather and holiday contexts. Eggnog in July would be perverse, but in late autumn through winter, when it's dark early and cold outside, there's something perfectly right about drinks that are basically nutritious desserts with alcohol. It's festive without trying too hard. It's traditional without being stuffy. And it's one of those rare drinks that actually benefits from being made at home rather than ordered at a bar. So here's what I want you to do. Get fresh eggs. Get whole milk and heavy cream. Get rum or brandy or bourbon, or, if you're feeling historically ambitious, all 3. Get whole nutmeg and a grater. And make this properly, from scratch, the way it was meant to be made, before corporations convinced everyone it should taste like melted ice cream. Will it be richer than commercial versions? Absolutely. Will you need to shake or whisk like you mean it? Yes. Will your kitchen smell like a holiday memory? Guaranteed. Washington's version might knock your socks off, but a properly made eggnog will do something better. It'll make you understand why this drink has survived centuries, crossed oceans, weathered prohibition, and outlasted countless food trends. It's not just tradition. It's physics and chemistry and history in a cup, topped with freshly grated aromatic proof that sometimes the old ways got things exactly right. All right. Thank you for joining us for the West 6 podcast. Drink responsibly, and if you had a good time, press follow and rate our show 5 stars. This is Scotty signing off. May your troubles be lighter than your cocktails.
Grab news. Thomas.